Hello, Larry Arth Equity Builders Group here in beautiful Fort Lauderdale. We got a beautiful backdrop today. I'm here with my friend Mike Wolf, who is a real estate investor from Canada, actually, Calgary. How do you like Fort Lauderdale compared to Calgary in mid-December?
Well, they did have a winter advisory saying it was going down to minus 40, so and minus 40 Celsius, minus 40 Fahrenheit are the same at that point, by the way. So I'm very happy to be here right now.
That's the perks of real estate investing. You can travel wherever you want. There are a lot of investing strategies in real estate, and we've talked about a lot of those, but Mike really has pinpointed tax deed investing. Talk about getting some economical investments. Mike, tell us a little bit why tax deeds. What's so powerful about a tax deed investment?
Well, first of all, I'm going to explain what a tax deed is, because a lot of people don't know what it is. There's a lot of misconceptions and myths surrounding that topic. And so, first of all, a tax deed is created when a county, obviously through their property taxes, they need this money for their roads, their schools, their police, their fire department. And when somebody gets delinquent on those property taxes, after a certain amount of time, the county has to basically put their foot down and say, we need this money. And they give the homeowner a final warning and say, listen, you haven't made a tax payment in 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is. And if you don't pay your property tax by such a date, we're going to put your home up for auction. And quite often there's a number of reasons why people will allow their home to go for auction. Sometimes they've long since abandoned the home. A lot of times people are delinquent not only on their taxes but also on their mortgage, and they're not paying anything. Sometimes somebody dies and somebody inherits this property, and they don't necessarily want it because they don't know how to deal with tenants and toilets. I love, obviously, having revenue properties, as do you, but that's not everybody's thing. So there's a number of reasons why somebody might let it go, but it really creates a great opportunity for us as investors, not only to get properties for pennies on the dollar, because these properties will go for auction just for the amount that was owing on the property taxes, and plus whatever legal fees on top of that to get, to do the foreclosure process. But to make a long story short, I see single-family homes. I was just in Houston the other day. We saw single-family homes going for, I think we saw one go for $4,000.
Amazing.
But on a regular basis, we see tons of stuff going for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, single-family homes. And it creates a really good, not only good opportunity, but also win-win, because quite often we can help the previous homeowner get back into home ownership. There's a number of different things we can create with this once we get the property. But to make a long story short, I've got a lot of clients that don't have a ton of money to play with, and they want to get started in the real estate game, but their opportunities are very, very limited. And tax deeds are probably, in my opinion, it is the best way to get started. Whether you want to buy a property to hold, whether you want to buy a property to flip, there's just so many different strategies you can do once you acquire the property with that kind of discount. And so that's what I love about tax deeds. Not only that, every county in the United States has a way that they deal with delinquent taxes. So this is going on all over the place. Yet because it's very misunderstood and very few people know how to do it, I don't have a whole ton of competition out there. There's a lot of, institutional investors, for example, they don't want to learn how to do tax deeds because it's too much work. They would rather buy properties in bulk because they get paid for acquisition. The more properties they buy, the more they get paid. So for a lot of investors out there, and you may have experienced this yourself, I know I have, my biggest competition when I'm trying to buy properties in a lot of different realms of real estate is those hedge funds that I can't compete against them. They have a lot more money.
Big checkbooks.
They're not looking for good deals. They're spending other people's money. They don't care what they're buying. And I don't want to compete against that. So tax deeds are still a great way to get properties once you know what you're doing.
So what I hear you say is there's low competition, low cost of entry, making a great investment.
There's a low cost of entry monetarily. There's a big cost of entry education-wise. Not that it's hard to learn, but if you don't know what you're doing, we see people making, I was just, like I mentioned, I was just in Harris County, which is Houston, Texas, this past week. And, one of the things that I see people trying to sell students on is, you can do this from the comfort of your own home. Well, you can do this from the comfort of your own home if you don't mind losing money. If you want to make money, either yourself or somebody on your team, and I recommend having a team, has to drive by these properties. And here's why. I saw a whole bunch of vacant lots that used to have homes on them. And when I looked at the computer, if I would have looked at Google Maps and looked at these properties, in some cases it looked like really nice homes. But what happened is the people abandoned them and they became hazards and the county tore them down. And of course when they do that, when you go to an auction, you're buying as is. What you see is what you get. If you're buying a piece of land that you thought was a home, it doesn't matter. You can't go back and say, I want my money back. What you see is what you get. And
no refunds.
Right. So getting educated on it is the key. Once you have the education, then it's very inexpensive way to pick up properties. and not make any of these mistakes that I see people making every single auction I go to.
And you created a way to reduce some of those investment costs on the education part and streamline it by building a team.
Absolutely.
A true team that you handpicked. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, one of the problems I see people doing is that they'll go to a city and they'll try and pick the top realtor to get them to work with them. They'll try and pick the top property management team, the top rehab crew, whatever that is. If those people don't mesh, that's not a team.
Right.
Number one. Number two, it's very hard to get these people to mesh quite often because the top realtor will usually have an ego. The top property management team, all these people, you're dealing with different egos and different interests, and these people don't always mesh so well. Let's just put it that way. And so I'm very careful to hand pick the people that I want to deal with. I want to make sure these people not only mesh with each other, but mesh with me and my style, and also are there to help my students. And so, picking the top of anything isn't a guarantee that's going to work for you. Also, picking people that don't have a clue what they're doing probably doesn't help unless you train them right. And so I offer a lot. Not only do I pick who I think are the right people, I also offer in-depth training. And I've been doing real estate for 24 years. And so I'll basically teach them not just what works, but also all the mistakes that I've made over time, because I made a ton of mistakes. And so I'm going to tell them, don't do this, because this is what happened to me once, and here's why we do this instead of that.
Right.
So I basically train them, and it's so important to have the right people, no matter what you're doing in real estate, whether it be tax deeds or however you're acquiring properties. You always have to have the right people that they're representing you. I'm from Canada, and I'm working all over the United States and all over Canada as well. And if I didn't have the right team in each place, I'm either going to be a babysitter, or I'm going to be on airplanes an awful lot dealing with messes. And so I don't want to do that.
Well, that's a great point, and I like the fact that you handpick it. He traveled all over the U.S. and Canada, handpicking teams. Now, you don't just call somebody and say you're a team member. It's all about relationship building, something Mike absolutely has mastered, building relationships. Relationships with people you know, like, and trust. Tax deed is more of an active investment versus a passive investment, but you've actually, with the team you built, you kind of took some of that active investor from an individual investor standpoint and made it possible to streamline that so there's not so much hands-on activity by the investor, because you have a hand-picked team to help the process along.
Well, what I've done is I've taken it a step further, because for me, like I said, there's auctions that take place all over the U.S. every single day. There's auctions going on every day. And I obviously can't be in every one of those places, nor do I want to be. I'd much rather be here by the water. In any case, there's a lot of things I'd rather do than be hanging out on the courthouse steps auction, at an auction. So what I do is I build two basically distinct types of teams within each market. So one team is basically your typical, realtors and property managers, our rehab crew, different things like that. But I also build a bid by proxy team, and basically what that is, I've got people who actually go to the auction on my behalf. I'll sign a limited power of attorney over to them, allowing them to bid for me. I'll also have people that go around and they'll go film the properties for me, and they're my eyes and ears on the ground. And so what I've done for my students is, instead of telling them, oh, you need to go build a team, I actually let them use my teams. And so
that's awesome.
It takes something that's very active that would normally require you to travel a lot. And certainly you can, if that's your motivation for getting into this, you can still do the travel, absolutely, if you want it. It is fun. It's fun to a certain point. If every single day you're in an auction, it loses its fun pretty fast. But at the end of the day, basically all the stuff that you would have to do gets handled by somebody else. And so you can now be a lot more productive and bid in city after city after city. And sometimes, for instance, in Texas, the tax deed auction, no matter where you are in Texas, it's the first Tuesday of the month. And Georgia, another state that I like, it's also the first Tuesday of the month. There's other places where it's different days, but I obviously can't be in two different states at once.
Sure.
So this now allows you to be more productive, have more opportunity to purchase, a larger selection of homes by having people go do that for you. And so the bid by proxy side of the team is very important to me, because it really allows me to be a lot less hands-on and gives me more time to build more teams in more cities, which is really my passion. That's what I love to do.
It's a duplicatable system.
Absolutely. You can do it over and over and over again.
That's what everybody's looking for. How people are interested in this and want to pursue it further, how do they learn more about this and get deeper involved?
Well, what I've done is I get asked a lot of the same questions over and over again, and I'm obviously very busy. So what I've done is I've created a bunch of free videos that go into depth on how to get started in tax deeds and tax liens, as a matter of fact, which is another similar strategy. And so I teach both liens and deeds in these videos. And so if your people just want to sign up on this page,
All right.
if they just fill in the blank with their name and their email address, I'll be sure to get them those videos. And as we make new stuff, we'll continue to send them our new updates, because we're still, we're learning new things every day as we explore different markets, different opportunities. I'm always keeping people up to date where the best deals are, where you're going to get the best bang for your buck, and save you all the trial and error. I mean, why go to an auction that's we get some auctions where there's very low inventory or too much competition. So this will basically direct you to some of the places that I love to go and bid myself, as well as have my team set up, and it'll get you set and going in the right direction.
So if you want to follow Mike's and his tax deeds, ongoing information, which changes all the time, register below, get on the tax deed mailing list, and Mike will make sure you get those all out.